Hi guys and welcome in this new video tutorial, and today I'm going to add authentication, permission and monetization to my SaaS application built with Next.js. So this SaaS has been created part of the one SaaS per week challenge. So if you don't follow me on X, you can follow me now. My username appears on the screen. So basically I'm building one SaaS per week every week. So this SaaS has been built in public on X. So what you can see is it's simple AI image generator that you can use to generate images, and once you generated an image you can replace some element of it. So let me give you a quick tour. So for example, I have my Elon Musk image here. I can draw on the screen, and I can then add for a replacement, so for example for sunglasses, and boom. So then my users will be able to export the image here, and they will be able to use it. So currently my application doesn't have any database, storage or authentication. So I will have to add at least authentication. And what I would like to do is to only allow authenticated users to export the images, and I will maybe increment a counter like a quota for every export. So to add authentication and permissions, I will just use Kobble.io, which is the simplest tool that I know to do it. So I will first go to docs.kobble.io and I will follow the next quick start. I will need to install the Kobble SDK and things like that. But before to do it, I will first configure my Kobble project. So I will go to app.kobble.io and I will create a new project. As you can see, I already have many projects. So let's create a new one named Image Bear. So once I created my project at Kobble, I just have to do two things. The first one is I will allow authentication. So my users will be able to authenticate using the methods I will enable. So I won't enable Google for that tutorial. I will keep it simple and just enable Magic Link. So as you can see, it only takes one click. And the second thing I will need to do is to create an application, which means my Next.js application will have some credential to be able to use my Kobble account. So here I will name it Image Bear. And as a redirect URI, I will use localhost 3000 because my local application runs on localhost 3000, and I will use /callback as a route. But as you can see, you can use any arbitrary route name here because the Kobble Next.js SDK will work and adapt to your callback route, but we'll see that in this tutorial. I will also add my production URL, so I won't have to do it later. My domain name is imagebear.ai, and I will use the /callback route as well. So that way I'm allowing any application to redirect to imagebear/callback and localhost 3000/callback. So I save that and my application is created in Kobble. So as you can see, I now have access to many information such as the domain URL, the client ID, client secret, and I will be able to use those values using the SDK. So I will show you that in a minute. So let's follow now the documentation and the Next.js quick start. So for you to understand what we did here is the setup Kobble. So we followed those steps, explained it in the setup Kobble section. So now we can follow the next quick start. So we already created the Next.js application. What we need now is to install the Next.js SDK. So let's do it. So I will npm install Kobble next. And then I have to configure the middleware. So to do it, I just have to copy paste the middleware file given by the documentation. And I will paste it in the src directory of my application. So I will name it middleware.ts and I will paste it. So here I won't change anything to that middleware, but the thing is you can update it. So you can tell Kobble what routes are public, which means every route which is listed as which is not listed as public will be private by default and considered as private by default, which means by default Kobble will disallow access to those routes and redirect your users to your authentication portal, which is built in by Kobble. So if you want everything to be public, you have to update your public routes. So for example, let's say I had a route named I don't know project slash project ID. That way I could set this route as public by doing it that way. So this is not my case. I want slash is enough for this project. Now they say I have to set up the Kobble provider, which is very simple. I just have to import the Kobble provider and I just have to wrap my body children into the Kobble provider. So I will just open the layout.tsx file. I will import the Kobble provider and here I will wrap my body children into that Kobble provider. So super easy, just have to do it that way and boom, it's done. So now if I open my app, I must have an error because I imported Kobble correctly. However, I haven't imported the right environment variable. So if I open my app, so boom, I have this error saying that the next public Kobble client ID is missing. And in fact, all the variables are missing because I have to add them, right? So I will follow the tutorial. So basically they give me the .env file I have to copy paste. So I already have a .env file here with some variables. I will just add those variables. And now I need to, actually add the values for every variable. So here they ask me for the client secret, which I have on my Kobble project. We just created it earlier. So I will add the client secret here. I will add the client ID, which is here. I will add the public domain, which is the domain provided by the Kobble customer portal they created for me. Obviously, later, if I want, I can create a custom portal domain. And here as the redirect URI, I need to give the URI of my application. So as I told you before, my application runs on localhost 3000 and I want my redirect to be on /callback. So as long as my redirect URI in my app and on Kobble match together, I'm safe. So that being said, I noticed that I added a HTTPS URI here, which is wrong because in localhost you don't run with HTTPS. So I will just remove that and replace it by HTTP. So localhost 3000 /callback. So again, as long as your URIs here and your URI here match, you're safe. So I will add it and click on save. And now I must be fine, so I can save my environment and restart my app. So if I reopen my app here, I still have an issue. It seems I'm missing the equal here. I don't know why, and it must work now. Okay, so now my application works as expected. So I can start using the SDK to add authentication and permission. So the first thing I would like to do is to prevent users to click on the export button here or to view the export button if they're not authenticated. So what I can do is I can use the Kobble Next.js components to help me achieve that. So I can import, as you can see, I can import the signed in and signed out component either to display if a user is signed in or signed out and display some different, values on my app. So I will use that component first. So I will try to find my export button, which is here. And what I would like to say is, okay, if the user is unauthenticated, I will display a login button instead of this export button. So here I will use the signed in component and I will say, okay, if the user is signed in, and we'll import the component later. If the user is signed in, let's show this button. However, if the user is signed out, we'll display another button, which will be the login button. And this login button will redirect to my customer portal. And this login button is also provided by Kobble. So inside this button, I will just, remove that, and I will just add another button component, but saying click login or sign in to export. Okay. So now I have to import those components. So very easy. So I will import the login button, the signed in component, the signed out component from Kobble.io Next client. And let's check what we've done so far. Okay, so as you can see, I'm not authenticated. So the signed out component appears and what's inside appears. So I can see the sign in to export. What if I click now on this button? Well, I'm redirected to my customer portal running on imagebear.portal.kobble.io. This customer portal has been provided by Kobble and has been generated for me. So I haven't coded anything to have this customer portal. So as a user, I can sign in now. Okay. So I will open the link received by email. And I'm redirected back here. Once accepted, I'm redirected back to my application. And as you can see, now I have the export button appearing on the screen. So now my user is authenticated. But I don't want my users to be able to export unlimited pictures. I want maybe to allow only 10 pictures per month for free members and maybe more for paid members. So what I can do is I can leverage the quotas and permission system provided by Kobble. So I will go to my Kobble dashboard here, and I will go to monetization. Here you can see Kobble created by default a free product for us. And if I go to users, you can see that the user we just created has been assigned to a free product. So by default, Kobble created a free product, and by default, Kobble will assign all my new members to this free product. So what I can do is I can go to monetization and open this product. And now I can either attribute quota or permissions to that product. That's what I will do. I will use quota here. So I will say, I will create a new quota and I will name it image generated. So you can name it whatever you want, but I believe this name is clear enough. And this quota will have a monthly interval, which means this quota will be computed every month. That's what we want. We want to limit the number of image generated every month. I will create the quota. And now I can use the quota in my product. So I will open my free product and I will add a quota limit for image generated. And I will say, okay, my free members will be able to generate 10 images per month. And boom, that's about it. So you're probably wondering where your users will see those quotas and those features. Well, the thing is, they will see it on your customer portal because you can bring them to your customer portal so they can view your pricing. So for example, if I open the customer portal here as an authenticated user, I will see the pricing and I will see there is a free product, which is obviously free. What I can do is I can add features to that product only for to display them to my users. So I will go to my product again here and I will add a feature and I will say, okay, in this product, you have 10 images generated per month or 10 generation per month, if it makes sense. And so now if I go back to my customer portal, I can see the feature and you can add, you can construct your pricing table that way. Now, as you can see, as a free member, I must have a quota of at least 10 images generated per month. But what I need to do is to display those images generated to the user, so the user can keep track of his credit. So we'll add something in the header here to add the email of the user and the remaining quota of the user. So to do it, we can use the useAuth hook to access the user's information, such as the email and name if available, and we can use the useAccessControl hook to access the permissions and quotas of a particular user. So we'll leverage those features right now. Okay, I have my header component. So I will just create another component, say user info here, that way, and I will create it here. So userinfo.tsx, I will export const userinfo. So I will add white text, and I also want to display, the quota usage of the user, usage, and it will be like 5 out of 10, something like that. So here, okay, display it that way. So what I want is maybe to space X my element. The design here is not important in that video. I just want to show you how to achieve that. So maybe I will add some opacity here. Okay, that's much better. So that looks like something I want for my user information. So now, how can I access those values here? So it's very simple. I will leverage, as I told you, 2 hooks from the Next.js SDK. The first one is useAuth, and the second one is useAccessControl. So I will import them from Kobble Next client, and it will be as simple as that. So I will use all the quotas. So the useAccessControl return all the quotas available for the user, and here the useAuth returns the user itself. So what I can do now is on those quota, I can console log the quotas, right? So I will do it now to see how it looks. And I will also console log the user. I corrected a small typo here. So I will console log the user and console log the quota just to see how it looks. So as you can see, the user is a user object using with the email, the name, the picture, URL, the Stripe ID, and something that may be useful. Here, the picture URL is empty because I logged in using my email. But for example, if you use some social login like GitHub or Google, you'll get a picture URL most likely. Here, as you can see, the quotas returns an array, which is an array of quota. And as you can see, there is one quota, which is the quota we created, named image generated, and the quota has a limit. And you can see this limit corresponds to the limit of the plan the user subscribed to. So I'm on the free plan, and we decided that the free plan has a 10 request limit per month. So I have a remaining usage of 10 and a usage of 0. So what I will do is to display this quota, because you can have many quotas, right? You can have multiple quotas. I will just try to find it by its name. So I will do something like that. Const quota equal. So what I'm doing here is I'm iterating over all the quotas, and I try to find the quota that matches the name of the quota I want to display. So my quota could be undefined, right? Because I'm not sure the image generated quota will be part of the array, although I know it will be part of the array. So you can manage this condition however you want. I will use safeguards here because it will be simpler. So what I can do now is I can replace the values here. So I can say quota.usage here. I can add the interrogation mark. And maybe replace it by 0 by default. And here I can show the quota.limit, and I can say 0 as well. So once the quota, so if the quota is not loaded, then the default value will appear. But you can do also something like that. If there is no quota, then return and don't display this component. So you can handle the fact the quota could be undefined as you want. Here, let's see how it works. And boom, I have 0 out of 10, which is my real quota. So to make sure it works, let's say, let's go back to our quota limit and let's change the limit of the free product. So I will remove this one, boom, and I will add another limit, which will be, I don't know, 15. Boom. If I go back to my application here and I reload, you can see it's now 0 out of 15 because Kobble knows on what plan my user is and is able to, reconciliate the data of my quota and usage. Now I have to get the email. So this is even easier. So I can get the user.email here. And that's about it. Boom, there is my email. I changed a bit my mind. I won't bill my users based on the export, but instead I will bill my users based on the image generated and the AI image generation. So every time a user will generate an image like this with AI, I want the usage of my user to increment because, that's what costs me money, right? Every time a user will use the AI features, I will pay for the AI API. I believe it's fair if my users pay for it. So what I want is every time the user uses an AI feature like this one or the previous one, I want the usage to increment. So let's try to do it. So I will keep the same quota name, image generated, which makes sense. So what I have here is some next actions. So every time you click on remove background, AI replacement, or generate an image here, this triggers a different next action. So I have an actions file where my next actions are located. And so what I want to do is I want to increment the usage of the user every time one of these next action is triggered. So to do it, I will have to use another SDK, which is the Kobble admin SDK, which allows me to manipulate more things regarding my users, quotas, and things like that. So I will just copy the code here to npm install kobble.io/admin. Now I will import it, but to import it, I need a secret key. So I need to generate the secret key from my backend. So I will go to project setting, admin SDK, and generate a new secret key. I will add this secret key to my .env file. And this is a secret one. So I will name it Kobble secret key. Maybe Kobble admin secret key, to keep it clearer. Okay, so now to initialize this SDK, I just need to import it and instantiate a new instance of the Kobble class. So to do it, I will just create, a new file just to keep it cleaner, which I will name Kobble admin here.ts, and I will export Kobble admin from it, which will be a new instance of Kobble admin SDK. And here I will make sure my variable is set. So now I can import it on my next actions. And I can use my admin SDK. So now I have to do two things. The first one is I want to make sure my user has the right permission to make a new request and to has enough credit to do it. And two, I want to make sure to increment the credit of my user, at least the usage of my user when the request has been made. So let's try to do it. So I will do it on the generate image function, and then I will assume you understand how to do it. I won't do it on all functions because this video is long enough. So I will first use get auth to get my user authentication state back inside. So this time I will import the get auth function from Kobble Next server here. And this function will help me to get the user authentication state. So I can do something like that. I can get the session and I can say, okay, if there is no session, which means the user is unauthenticated, I can return an error. So for example, you can throw a new error and say not authenticated. If I have an authenticated user, it means I need to get the user, so I can do session.user to access the user information, and the user ID will be located on session.user.id. So here I will only need the user ID. So what I can do now is I can use the Kobble admin users as remaining quota. I can pass the user ID, and I will use the image generated quota. And that's about it. That way, the Kobble admin SDK will verify if my user with this user ID has the right credit to use the image generated quota. If yes, this boolean will be true and it will be false otherwise. So if it's false, then I will throw another error. Now my endpoint is protected. So what I want to do is to increment the usage of my user when, you know, the image has been generated just before returning it. So I will do it here. So I would just do Kobble admin here user, and I will use the increment quota usage feature. So I can pass the user ID. I can give the quota name, which will be image generated. And you know, that's it. Here, my quota will increment by 1. So if I wanted to, I could increment it by, you know, an arbitrary number like 10, for example, but that does not correspond to my use case. So I will only increment it by 1. So by default, if you do this, it will increment it by 1. So I did it for all functions, so let's see how it works. So the image has been generated, and as you can see, my usage increments automatically. So now if I ask for a replacement on the image, since I updated also that function, let's say sunglasses here, boom, it generated the image, and as you can see, the counter increments automatically. Now let's test if I reached my usage limit. So now the user reached the limit. So let's say I don't want them to have access anymore to the side nav here and to the add image feature. So I want to display a message redirecting to the pricing portal, for example. So I will do it. So I will go to my web application, and you know, this is this sidebar here. So what I want to do is to replace it with something else. So what I can use is the isAllowed component provided by Kobble. So the isAllowed component works exactly as the signed in and signed out component. It will display only its content if the user is allowed to do something. So you can give it an array of permission or an array of quota or a single string. And here I will say, okay, if the user is allowed to image generated, so if the user has enough credit on this quota, then you will display the content. So I will just import the component first here. And you know, if the user is allowed, I will display this entire sidebar. Now, if the user is forbidden, and I will use another component that I will import here. So if the user is forbidden to use the quota image generated, then I will display something else. So for example, I can display, you know, a message saying you have reached your quota for image generation. And I can use the pricing link component to redirect the user to the pricing portal. So I will import this component as well. So I just need to fix the text color here just to make sure it appears on the screen. So the result is not super clean. I will just make it cleaner. So it could be better, but let's see if it works at least. So I can click on view pricing, and here I am redirected to my pricing page. So we can't upgrade now because we haven't created any pro product. So let's try to create one very quickly. So basically the first thing I need to do is to connect my Stripe account. So I will go on Stripe setting and click on connect. Now I will use the company I want to use. This is the image bear, and I click on connect. So at this stage, you will probably have to give your company information. That's normal. It takes a few minutes. Now my Stripe account is connected, so I can create a new product and I can call it Pro, for example. I will set it as a paid product, the best image generation plan. Create. And now what I can do is I can create a price. So for example, let's say it will cost $5 per month without VAT, and I will create it. Now I can give, a new quota limit for image generated, which will be, for example, 50 images per month. And here I can, add the feature as I did for the free product, but with a different number. And that's about it. Now, if I go to my application, I click on view pricing, my users will be able to instantly view my new product and they will be able to subscribe to it. And boom. So I won't subscribe to it because you probably don't want to waste your money paying your own product. But what you can do to test your application is you can go to your user, you can open your user and you can change the product you have on Kobble. So for example, here I will select the Pro product, I will assign it, and I will reopen my application. And boom, as you can see now, I have enough credit to access the features and I can still use my application to generate my Elon Musk images. And boom. So the usage here will keep incrementing and I can use my application now as a pro member. That's everything for this video, guys. I hope it has been helpful. I showed you how you can implement authentication, permission, quotas, and even monetize your SaaS using Next.js and Kobble. And honestly, it maybe took me 20 minutes, but that's just because I explained everything. Because if you just know what to do, you can do it in 10 minutes. I hope it has been useful for you guys. So feel free to follow me on X and to subscribe on this YouTube channel if you want to learn new things every week. And especially if you want to build SaaS platform with me. And again, if you have any question about this tutorial or any tutorial you'd like me to record, feel free to leave a comment below. It's helpful for me, for the channel, and maybe for other people too. I wish you a good rest of your day and don't forget, keep shipping. Bye.